My parents sneered, "You'll never be as good as your sister." I stood up and said, "Then tell her to pay all the bills. I'm not sending money anymore." My mom was stunned. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." At my mother's birthday party, the laughter around the table froze when her words cut through the air like a knife. "Emily, you'll never be as good as your sister Rachel. She's the one who truly takes care of this family." My heart pounded. Years of being shoved into Rachel's shadow came crashing back in that single moment. I pushed my chair back, my voice trembling but fierce. "If that's the case, then let Rachel pay all the bills. I'm done. I won't send another dollar." The room went silent. My mother's eyes widened, her hand clutching her glass. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." Gasps rippled through the room. Relatives stared. My sister's smirk faltered, and in that stunned silence, I knew the truth I had hidden for years was about to erupt. Growing up in a small town in Ohio, I never doubted that my parents loved me, but I always knew I wasn't their favorite. From the earliest days, the comparison was constant, heavy, and unrelenting. Rachel, my older sister by 3 years, seemed to glide through life with an effortless charm. She was the cheer captain, the honor student, the one neighbors fawned over when they came by for dinner. "Rachel's so talented," they'd say, their eyes lighting up as if she were some star plucked from the heavens. Meanwhile, I sat at the corner of the table, quiet, book in hand, waiting for someone to notice me. I remember one Christmas when I was 12. I had spent weeks working on a homemade gift, a wooden jewelry box I carved and painted by hand in shop class. My fingers ached, but I wrapped it carefully, my heart swelling with hope. When Rachel opened her gift, a shiny necklace from Dad, my parents clapped and beamed. When it was my turn, I handed my mom the box with trembling hands. She opened it, glanced briefly, and said, "That's nice, Emily, but you should spend more time helping Rachel with her routines instead of wasting hours on little projects." Her words cut deeper than any blade. I forced a smile, swallowing the lump in my throat. That night, I cried silently into my pillow, vowing never to show my disappointment. At school, things weren't much different. Teachers adored Rachel. Once, during a parent-teacher conference, I overheard my homeroom teacher telling Mom, "Rachel is truly exceptional, a born leader." Then, as if remembering I existed, she added, "Emily does fine, but she's too quiet. She needs to be more like her sister." "Did you hear that, Emily?" Mom said in the car afterward. "Why can't you learn from Rachel?" I stared out the window, my hands clenched in my lap. "I'm not Rachel," I whispered, but no one heard me. The truth was, I wasn't jealous of her. She was my sister, and I loved her in my own way. But every comparison chipped away at me, brick by brick, until I felt like a ghost in my own home. Instead of trying to compete, I buried myself in books and tinkered with computers my dad had bought at a garage sale. While Rachel basked in applause on stage, I was in my room, dismantling circuit boards, writing messy lines of code that somehow gave me peace. My world was quiet, but it was mine. Still, late at night, I couldn't stop asking myself, would I ever be enough, or would I always be just Rachel's sister? High school was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where I could finally step out of Rachel's shadow. Instead, it became the stage where her spotlight only grew brighter, leaving me invisible under its glare. Rachel was everywhere: cheer captain, prom committee, theater club. Her laugh carried down the hallways, drawing people in like moths to a flame. Teachers adored her, classmates wanted to sit beside her. And me? I was the quiet girl with her nose buried in a book, or hidden in the computer lab, the one people barely noticed until they needed help fixing their laptops. I'll never forget the spring talent show. I had been working for weeks with the science club on a project, a small robot that could follow commands and pick up objects. I was nervous, but proud. As I stood backstage, clutching the controller in my sweaty palms, I overheard whispers. "Rachel's doing a dance routine. It's going to be amazing. She's always the best." "Emily? Wait, she's even in the show?" The curtain rose, and Rachel danced under the bright lights, dazzling the crowd with every graceful move. The applause was thunderous, echoing in my chest even as I stood in the shadows, waiting my turn. When it was finally time, I stepped forward, my robot whirring to life. It rolled across the stage, picked up a cup, and dropped it into a bin. The mechanics worked flawlessly, but the audience clapped politely, almost out of obligation. And when I looked toward my parents, my stomach twisted. Their seats were empty. Later that night, I found out why. "Your sister had cheer practice, and we didn't want her to walk home alone," Mom explained casually, as if it were the most natural decision in the world. "But it was the talent show," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Don't be so dramatic, Emily," Dad muttered. "We'll catch the next one." But there wasn't a next one, at least not with them in the audience. The comparisons became sharper with every report card, every holiday dinner. "Look at Rachel's grades," Dad would beam. "She's a natural." My grades were good, solid A's and B's, but when I showed them, Mom would sigh. "If only you had her confidence." One afternoon, after another round of, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" I snapped. "Because I'm not Rachel," I shouted. The room went silent. For a moment, I thought they finally heard me. But then Mom shook her head. Disappointment etched across her face. "You don't need to yell, Emily. Just try harder." I stormed upstairs, tears burning my eyes. That night, I scribbled into my journal, "No matter what I do, it will never be enough." Still, I clung to the one place that gave me solace: the glow of my computer screen. In code and circuits, there were no comparisons, no favoritism, just logic, order, and the quiet reassurance that I could create something on my own terms. Leaving for college felt like escaping a cage I hadn't realized was locked. I was accepted into the computer engineering program at the University of Texas, and for the first time in my life, I could breathe without Rachel's shadow pressing down on me. I packed my bags with trembling hands, half excited, half afraid. At the airport, Mom hugged Rachel longer than she hugged me. "Take care of yourself, Emily," she said, her voice distracted. "And remember, confidence is just as important as intelligence." I nodded. But inside I thought, no matter what, it'll never be enough for you, will it? College was hard, brutal even. Tuition, rent, books, they all piled on top of me. I worked 2 part-time jobs, one at the campus cafe and another fixing computers in the library. There were nights when I collapsed into bed at 3 a.m., only to wake up at 7 for class. But in that exhaustion, I found something I'd never had before: pride. Every dollar I earned was mine. Every assignment I finished was proof that I could survive without anyone's applause. Meanwhile, Rachel's path unraveled. She had enrolled at a small community college, but dropped out after 1 semester, claiming classes were boring and limiting. Instead, she floated from one big idea to the next, starting an online boutique, managing an influencer's account, even joining a pyramid scheme. Each time, my parents nodded along, convinced Rachel was on the brink of greatness. One night, during a rare phone call home, Mom's voice carried her usual tone of pride. "Rachel's meeting with investors tomorrow. She might launch a new business. Isn't that exciting?" I gripped the phone tighter. "That's great, Mom. By the way, I got an internship at a tech company this summer." Silence. Then a half-hearted, "That's nice, Emily. Just keep being independent, okay?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. Independent. That word had become code for, "We don't expect much from you. Just manage on your own." Still, I pressed forward. I coded until my eyes blurred, aced my courses, and poured everything into proving, maybe not to them, but to myself, that I had worth. Rachel, meanwhile, flaunted new clothes and fancy dinners on Instagram, her captions dripping with confidence. "Big moves coming soon. Watch this space." She never mentioned where the money came from, and I wondered quietly if my parents were still supporting her. One evening, after a grueling 10-hour shift between work and class, I sat in my dorm, staring at Rachel's latest post, her posing with a champagne glass at an upscale bar. I tossed my phone aside, whispering to myself, "One day, I'll show them. I'll show all of them." It wasn't jealousy, it was survival. If I didn't hold on to that determination, the comparisons would crush me before I even had the chance to live. Graduation day should have felt like victory. I walked across the stage in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, and for a moment I allowed myself to believe things would be different. My parents clapped politely, their cheers lukewarm compared to the roaring applause Rachel had once commanded at cheer competitions. Still, I smiled, whispering to myself, "This is my achievement. No one can take it away from me." Soon after, I landed a job as a junior software engineer at a growing tech company in Austin. The city buzzed with opportunity, and for the first time in years, I felt hope stirring in my chest. My salary wasn't huge, but it was stable enough for rent, bills, and maybe even saving a little. Then the phone call came. "Emily." Mom's voice trembled through the line. "Your dad. The doctor says he can't work anymore. His lungs." All those years in the factory, I sank into my desk chair, my heart twisting. "What about you, Mom?" I cut back my hours. "It's hard keeping up with expenses. The bills. His medicine." I didn't hesitate. "I'll help. Don't worry about the money." And so it began. Each month, I wired 2, 0, sometimes 2, 500, home. But there was a problem. Mom wasn't comfortable with online banking. "It's too complicated," she said whenever I tried to walk her through it. Rachel, still living near them, offered a solution. "Just send the money to me," she said breezily over the phone. "I'll cash it out and give it to them." Easy. I hesitated. But then she laughed. "Come on, Em. Don't you trust your own sister?" Against the knot in my stomach, I agreed. Life in Austin quickly became a cycle of work, bills, and sacrifice. I skipped dinners with colleagues, avoided shopping sprees, and lived off simple meals so I could send more home. Every time I hit transfer on my banking app, I pictured Mom buying Dad's medicine, fixing the leaking roof, or simply breathing a little easier. Rachel, meanwhile, seemed to flourish. Her Instagram was full of smiling selfies in designer dresses, brunches at rooftop cafes, and captions like, "Work hard, play harder." I brushed away my unease, telling myself maybe her side hustles were finally working out. But sometimes, when Mom called complaining about expenses, Doubt gnawed at me. The electricity bill's so high this month, she'd sigh. We barely managed. I'd bite my lip, staring at the empty takeout container on my desk, knowing I'd skip meals to send that money. I'll increase it next month, I promised. After hanging up, I'd whisper into the quiet of my apartment. As long as they're okay, that's all that matters. I didn't know then that my sacrifices were fueling more than just my parents' survival. They were feeding a secret I wasn't ready to face, a truth that would explode in the most humiliating way possible. Austin was noisy with opportunity, but I lived quietly. My routine was simple. Work long hours, eat frugal meals, wire money home. I told myself it was worth it every time I pictured Mom holding Dad's hand at the doctor's office or picking up his prescription without worry. But the illusion began to crack. It started with Rachel's Instagram posts. One day, she showed off a brand new SUV with the caption, "Dreams don't work unless you do. Boss life." Another week, she uploaded pictures at a champagne brunch, her wrist flashing with a designer watch I knew cost more than my monthly rent. Scrolling through the images, my chest tightened. How could she afford this? I wanted to believe she had finally made her business ventures work. Maybe luck was on her side. Still, a nagging voice whispered, "What if she isn't telling you everything?" One evening, I sat across from my boyfriend, Daniel, at a cozy cafe near my office. He watched me push a salad around my plate, lost in thought. "You're distracted again," he said, setting down his coffee. "What's going on?" I hesitated, then admitted, "Rachel's been different lately. Flashy, expensive clothes, cars. I don't know where the money's coming from." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Emily, are you sure she's giving your parents the money you send?" The question cut deep. "Of course she is," I shot back too quickly. "She wouldn't lie about that. She knows how much it means." Daniel leaned forward, his tone gentle but firm. "You trust her." "I get it, but trust without proof can be dangerous. Maybe you should ask your mom directly." I shook my head, staring at the table. I don't want to hurt them. If they think I'm checking up, it'll feel like I don't trust Rachel. And despite everything, she's still my sister. But later that night, lying in bed, I replayed his words. My gut twisted as I remembered Mom's complaints. "The bills are so high this month. The roof is leaking again. Medicine costs are killing us." Hadn't I sent extra money for those very things? Still, I clung to my belief. Rachel may be reckless, but she wouldn't betray me. Not like that. Weeks passed. My own life became more stressful. Deadlines at work. Endless coding sessions. Nights when my eyes burned from staring at screens too long. And yet, Rachel's posts only grew more extravagant: vacations, poolside cocktails, expensive handbags. Finally, during a family video call, my unease boiled over. Mom sighed, rubbing her temples. "Your father's medicine went up again." "I don't know how we'll manage," I blurted. "Didn't Rachel give you the money I sent last week?" Her brow furrowed. "Money? No, sweetheart. Rachel helps us when she can, but it's not much." "Don't worry about it." I froze, my pulse thundered in my ears. "Not much?" I had set nearly $3,000 that month. "Emily?" Mom's voice broke through the static. "Are you still there?" I forced a smile, hiding the storm inside me. "Yeah, Mom, I'm here. I'll send extra next month, okay?" When the call ended, I sat in silence. Daniel's earlier words echoing like a warning bell. My trust, my sacrifices, my sleepless nights, were they all being twisted into Rachel's luxury lifestyle? I wanted to confront her right then, but fear held me back. Fear of shattering whatever fragile bond we had left. Fear of seeing the truth I wasn't ready to face. Instead, I told myself, I'll deal with it later. For now, just keep going. For Mom and Dad. But deep down, I knew the confrontation was coming. And when it did, it would tear open wounds my family had spent years ignoring. Mom's 60th birthday should have been a celebration. I spent weeks searching for the perfect gift. A digital camera with a simple interface, something she had once mentioned wanting for her garden. Daniel helped me wrap it in her favorite color, pale blue, and we flew back to Ohio together. I told myself this trip might finally be the bridge to heal years of unspoken wounds. The house smelled of vanilla cake and roasted chicken when we arrived. Relatives filled the living room. Laughter and chatter weaving through the air. Rachel floated around in a sequin dress, her makeup flawless. Her presence magnetic as always. "Emily." Mom greeted me with a polite hug, then quickly turned to Rachel. "Honey, could you help me with the candles?" I swallowed the familiar sting and smiled tightly. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. "It'll be okay," he whispered. Dinner started well enough. People clinked glasses, traded stories. But as the evening wore on, the same script unfolded. Aunt Linda leaned toward Rachel, her eyes sparkling. "You're such a good daughter, Rachel, sending money every month to take care of your parents." "Not everyone does that." Others nodded in agreement. Uncle Frank chuckled. "This family's lucky to have you, Rachel." The words hit me like shards of glass. My fork clattered against my plate. I felt Daniel's hand tighten on mine, urging calm. But Mom's next words broke the dam. "Emily, why can't you be more like your sister?" Her tone was weary, cutting. Rachel takes care of us. You should learn from her. The years of comparisons, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, they all exploded at once. I pushed back my chair, the screech of wood against tiles silencing the room. If that's the case, I said, my voice trembling but sharp, then let Rachel pay all the bills. I'm done. I won't send another dollar. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mom's face went pale. What money? She demanded, her voice shaking. We never received a single dollar from you. My hand shook as I pulled out my phone. Then, explain this. I opened my banking app, scrolling through the endless list of transfers. 202-500-30. Each one marked with the note, for Mom and Dad. I held the screen up for everyone to see. The silence was suffocating. Rachel's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of panic. Uncle Frank leaned forward, his brows furrowed. Rachel, what's going on here? Aunt Linda whispered. My God. Daniel stood beside me, his voice calm but steady. Emily has been supporting her parents for years. She never wanted recognition. But I think it's time the truth came out. Mom's lips trembled as she stared at the screen. Rachel, you told us this money was from you. You said you were providing for us. Rachel's face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth, closed it again, then finally stammered. I didn't mean to. I just borrowed some. I was going to pay it back. Borrowed? My father's frail voice cut through, each word laced with disappointment. For years? What did you do with it? Rachel's eyes darted around the room, desperate for escape. Finally, she muttered, I needed it. For debts. For appearances. I only gave you a little each month so you'd think. Her voice cracked. So you'd think I was the good daughter. The weight of her confession crashed down on the room. Relatives shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Linda set her teacup down with a sharp clink. I felt my chest tighten, anger and heartbreak colliding. I looked at Rachel, searching for the sister who once braided my hair, who shared secrets under the covers. All I saw was someone I no longer recognized. Mom buried her face in her hands. Emily, I'm so sorry. We accused you, compared you, and all this time. Dad's eyes glistened. I was wrong. I should have seen it. I should have seen you. Rachel whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Em. I didn't want to disappoint them. I didn't want to be a failure. But the words couldn't erase the years of betrayal. For the first time, I stood tall, no longer the quiet girl in Rachel's shadow. The truth was out, and the room that once echoed with praise for my sister now drowned in shame and silence. The living room, once filled with laughter, now felt like a courtroom. The string lights Rachel had hung for decoration flickered faintly, as if even they were ashamed to shine. No one moved. The only sound was the uneven breathing of my father and the occasional sniffle from my mother. Rachel sat rigid, her hands knotted in her lap, eyes fixed on the floor. For once, she had no story to spin, no charm to hide behind. Mom broke the silence first. Her voice trembled as she turned to me. Emily, I was so blind. I thought Rachel was the one sacrificing for us, all those times I told you to be more like her. Her words cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I swallowed hard. For years I had imagined hearing those words, but now they didn't feel like triumph. They felt like ashes in my mouth. Dad leaned forward in his chair, coughing before he spoke. I owe you an apology too. I was proud of Rachel, blind to what you were doing. I never asked, I never looked, and I let you suffer because of it. His weathered face crumpled with regret. The child in me wanted to run into his arms, to finally feel seen. But the woman I had become knew this was the moment to draw a line. I stood taller, my voice steady. I love you both. I always have. That's why I sent the money. But things cannot go back to the way they were. If I'm going to continue helping, there have to be rules. Every pair of eyes in the room turned to me. Even Rachel finally lifted her gaze, guilt swimming in her expression. First, I said firmly. No more comparisons. I'm not Rachel, and I never will be. I'm Emily. If you can't see me for who I am, then I can't keep breaking myself to earn your approval. Mom nodded vigorously, tears rolling down her face. Never again, sweetheart. I promise. Second, I continued, everything must be transparent. I'll send money directly to you, or I'll pay bills myself. No more middlemen. No more confusion. Dad's voice was hoarse but resolute. Agreed. We'll set it up however you say. No secrets. My chest tightened, but I pressed on. And third, Rachel has to take responsibility. She can't keep pretending while I carry the weight alone. Rachel flinched, shame painting her features. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. You're right. I've been selfish. I wanted to look perfect, even when I was drowning. I stole from you, Em. I lied to them, to everyone. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'll change. I'll get a real job. I'll contribute for real this time. A heavy silence followed. For the first time in years, my sister looked small, not the untouchable golden child, but a woman exposed, stripped of illusions. I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding. Words won't fix this, Rachel. Only actions will. You want to change? Prove it. Her lips trembled as she nodded. I will. Around us, the relatives shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Linda, who had always sung Rachel's praises, murmured, I never knew, Emily. I judged you wrongly. Uncle Frank added quietly, You've carried more than any of us realized, but their words barely registered. All I felt was exhaustion. Years of swallowed pain pouring out in a single night. Daniel's hand brushed mine. Steady and warm. You did what needed to be done, he whispered. I met his eyes and realized he was right. Speaking up wasn't about humiliating Rachel or demanding apologies. It was about reclaiming my worth. Mom reached for my hand, her grip trembling. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. For the first time in a long time, I believed her. As the night drew to a close, the birthday cake sat untouched. Candles melted into waxy puddles. The celebration had turned into a reckoning. And though painful, it was necessary. When I finally walked upstairs to my old bedroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My shoulders were straight, my eyes clear. For the first time, I didn't see Rachel's shadow staring back at me. I saw myself, Emily, no longer invisible. In the weeks that followed, the dust began to settle. Back in Austin, I resumed my job, but everything felt different, lighter, freer. For the first time, I wasn't living with the weight of comparisons pressing on my shoulders. Mom called often now, her voice softer than I remembered. She asked about my projects, about the long hours at the office. Being an engineer must be tough, she said once, genuine curiosity lacing her tone. For years, I had longed for those simple words of interest. Hearing them now, I almost cried. Dad, too, began to change. He started telling neighbors about my daughter Emily, the software engineer in Texas. His pride sounded awkward at first, as if he wasn't used to saying my name in that way, but it warmed me all the same. And Rachel, she surprised me most. She took a job at a local design firm. Nothing glamorous, but steady. Each month she sent a small amount home, only a few $100s, but it was honest. When we spoke on the phone, she didn't brag or spin stories. She just said, I'm trying, Em. I know I have a lot to make up for. For the first time, I believed her. Daniel stayed by my side through it all. One evening, as we walked through a quiet park, he squeezed my hand. You did the hardest thing anyone could do. You spoke the truth, even when it hurt. That takes courage, Emily. I smiled, leaning into him. I just couldn't live in her shadow anymore. I had to step out. Looking back, I realized the truth. Family love cannot survive on favoritism and lies. It withers under unfair comparisons, but it heals with honesty and respect. I no longer wanted to be Rachel's sister. I was Emily Carter, a daughter, a sister, a woman who had fought to be seen. And finally, I was.